Here is the BP Ultimate Grid for the final race of the weekend from Teretonga for the BNT V8s. John Hepburn starts up front alongside Dave Hopper with the reverse grid race. Eddie Bell and Simon Richardson all forward, second row.
Then move back to William Bamber and John Penny. Followed very closely behind by Martin Short, Andrew Anderson. Andrew Anderson, one to watch, especially in these conditions.
Row 5 start for Nick Ross alongside Andy Knight. Then we go back to Paul Manuel and Andy Booth, a pair of Holdens.
Start moving back to Scott McLaughlin and Angus Fogg. Of course, this is where the competition's starting to heat up, followed by Jason Barguana and Timmy Edgell.
Then we go back to the quick boys for the weekend. Craig Baird and John McIntyre from 17 and 18, with Kane Scott all the way back from grid number 19. It's the conclusion, the Southern Attack at Teretonga, the third and final race for the BNT V8s. Oh, there'd be a couple of drivers off the front row wondering what's going to happen behind them. Johnny Hepburn and David Hopper, both in the wars in race number 2.
Watch Simon Richards, the second car there on the left-hand side of the screen, the black one. Eddie Bowles already made his intentions well known, right down the centre here. I don't envy those guys in the front, because when they look, it's home straight away. Eddie Bowles in the back of the car.
It was back in
shot on the grass.
with the Knights. Well, I was about to say Paul Manuel coming out of pit lane, but Hepburn got a tap on the back bumper as they headed down, and we got 2 off, and that's Martin Short and Andy Anderson.
Well, Andy Anderson was a pick, actually. Martin Short was sideways at the start-finish line coming down there. Never going to work.
Well, there's a couple already in the wars in the opening lap, and you knew it was going to happen. The Southern Loop, wet conditions, 19 thundering BNT V8s.
If it's going to happen, it's going to unfold right here as well. A concertina effect coming in here. And look into turn 7.
Eddie Bell side by side there. I think that was with Angus Fogg on board with Scott McLaughlin. That's Jason Barguana just ahead. Just feathering the throttle. They are tiptoeing their way around Teretonga on the opening lap here of 22. Baird sideways. Kane Scott gets ahead of John McIntyre. On board with Scott, that's Baird just up ahead as Baird goes to the inside.
That's Scott McLaughlin. Now, we know he's a hard charger, but keep in mind, first time racing these conditions is Scott McLaughlin. He would not know what's hit him.
Well, he hasn't had a lot of wet weather driving experience, of course, coming off the Fujitsu Supercar campaign in Australia.
Sorry, Jamie, I'm going to jump in here. Kane Scott, the steering wheel, you see, it's actually pointing to the right. Now, has that suffered some damage? Has it had a hit somewhere and put the wheel alignment out?
Well, we'll have to wait and see with that. So John Penny is your race leader in the Penny Homes Falcon, chased by David Hopper. Johnny Hepburn in that third position. The New Zealand Superbike Championship sponsored Holden Commodore. There's Andy Booth. Now Boothie's up inside the top 6 or so.
Now, it's one of the LG cars that's high up. That's Angus Fogg, going up to 6th place. Now, you have to say, if Angus is up to 6th place with 2 laps under our belts, he's in a very strong position.
Well, we said at the start of race 1 I'd spoken to Foggy, and he thought that he would maybe let the other guys finish ahead of him and not force the issue, be ahead of them off the grid for this final race. And at the moment, that equation seems to be coming out right. Hey, he may not have meant it, but it's just how it's sort of starting to come out and coming to fruition at the moment. He's going down the inside of Andy Knight. At turn 7.
It's going to be a very wide car, that we do know. Now, Andy Knight's come straight across. Now, look, this is actually very dry in this part. It's still damp, but it's not a lot of standing water. You see the mist, not a great deal of get thrown up. So these guys are going to have a fair bit of confidence to be able to charge at one another, knowing that they've got a bit of grip. Now, 3 abreast. This is not going to work.
Foggy's gone to the outside, gets the run on Knight and David Hopper.
Now, has he made the corner? Just proves how wrong I am at times, and he did make that stick, and that's an outstanding move.
That is a big move. John Penny, David Hopper, Angus Fogg all the way up into the 3rd position. I think he came out of grid 14 off that race start.
Eddie Bowles, another one, which is jostling for a bit of respect from the other guys, certainly making his intentions known inside of young William Bamber.
Yeah, Bamber's been a little bit quiet this weekend, just struggling with car balance with the second of the LG Motorsport Falcons. He's side by side there with Eddie Bell. He's been in the wars. We've already seen him upside down.
One of these guys is going to have to concede, and I don't think it's going to be William Bamber. He's going to take it to Eddie Bell. Eddie Bell, if not careful, will run out of real estate.
Now continues off the exit of the Hep, and they're still side by side. Great job in these tricky conditions, and here comes Andy Booth.
Andy Booth saying, look, what's going to happen, guys? Because either way, I'm going to come through.
So Bell's trying to drive around Bamber. That's for the 5th, 6th, 7th positions. This is tight. Angus Fogg now up into 2nd. He's got around David Hopper. There's John Penny. Fogg now in 2nd. Lap 4 of 22. He's 18 points down on Craig Baird. Baird scored in the 10th position.
God, Angus is carrying so much confidence in that LG car. He can just put the thing anywhere and get away with it. But of course, John Penny, he will make life as difficult as he can for Angus, but it's only a matter of time for Angus does get himself to the front. And saying that, it's probably just a matter of corners now.
Well, Craig Baird, he's made a blinder. He's up inside the top 10, the new championship leader, but he's got some ground to make up here on Angus Fogg. It's just like a big game of chess at the moment. Again, we're just in that sort of settling period. John McIntyre just in the back of shot. He's scored in the 14th spot, battling there with Kane Scott. So Baird's got a couple of cars between himself and Kane Scott and John McIntyre. Jason Barguana's one of them. Here's Boothie and Willie Bamber going to war. Ford versus Holden. Fogg down the inside at turn 7.
Can he
new
ward it
race
up in
leader.
time? Watch John Penny do the crossover. Nah, well done, Angus. That is tremendous. From where you started up to the first place in 4 laps, proves how much confidence. He's got Craig Baird looking in the background. He's got in front of Barguana. Next person in front of him is Andy Booth. Eddie Bow, you see a bit of race tape flapping around there. That's probably what they used after the first race incident.
It's holding the windscreen. It's holding the windscreen in the car. So yeah, Foggy from 14th, I think, on the grid through to the lead inside the first 5 laps.
Now looking back further, Kane Scott also making huge inroads up to 11th.
Baird to the outside of Willie Bamber. I don't know that he'll get a run on Boothie, but hey, young Bamber's doing a good job. He's done a lot of side-by-side racing with these guys in the wet conditions for the 3rd and final race.
Just gives him a bit of a kiss on the way through, saying thanks for your time. Johnny McIntyre back to 14th, so there is a gap between Johnny Mac and Kane Scott and also Craig Baird. So that's where the battle for the championship, or actually for the round honours are at the moment. So probably advantage may swing to Craig Baird.
Yeah, Kane Scott at 142, Johnny Mac 135, Craig Baird 127 for the round. Kane Scott, John McIntyre for the championship, just 2 points between them, 414 to 412. Craig Baird with an 18-point lead over Fogg going into this race. Baird up into the 8th position as Andy Knight now goes to work on David Hopper.
David Hopper's doing a sterling job, isn't he? He's just circulating there, currently in 3rd place. Got a lot of strong competition behind him, but he's not moving, he's not conceding, he's making his guys go around the long way. So well done.
There's Kane Scott on board the Fujitsu Ford, leading the round honours. That's Barguana, I think, to his inside. So they're disputing the 10th and 11th positions. There's Baird going through. He is in 8th. In fact, I think Baird might have just rocked on through to 7th. There's Kane Scott, the Fujitsu Ford.
Actually, probably the thing that's working in Baird's favour as well is he's just done that treacherous race in the GT3 Porsche, which he kind of dominated, so he'll know where the grip is, where the dangerous spots are. Can't help but think that's working in his favour.
Angus Fogg with a 2-second advantage. There's the Penny Holmes Ford and John Penny in the 2nd position. Andy Knight now up into 3rd. David Hopper 4th. Eddie Bell. Craig Baird. He is charging in the United Video number 1 Ford. Johnny Hepburn just in behind Baird in the New Zealand Superbike Championship Holden. 2 or 3 wide. Under brakes. Boothie to the inside of Bamber. It's John Penny and Andy Knight are side by side. Knight looking for the 2nd position now to the outside down to the southern loop. And he makes a nice clean pass in the Century Batteries Ford. Eddie Bell's going to try and follow the same line around. Craig Baird's right there with them. 3 very, very different lines down through the southern loop.
Craig Baird just right around the outside of David Hopper. Hopper's still got a fair bit of speed. Is he going to make this move stick? Or is he just going to get run out of real estate? No, he's there. He's made that. So what's Eddie Bow going to do? John Penny, both these guys, great friends, great rivalries on and off the track.
Well, what Craig Baird is doing here is minimising the points lost to Foggy, who's out in front and running away. Baird by Eddie Bell through to 4th. Through to 4th for Craig Baird. 18 points the difference between Baird and Fogg. So it's going to be very, very close now.
And if you don't know what the difference is between a guy that's out front running in clean air, which is Angus Fogg, 1.1 seconds quicker than anybody else at this stage on the race without having any traffic in front of him.
Well, I think Baird's going to continue to go forward. At the moment, the gap, I think, is in the advantage of Angus Fogg to just 3 points back into the championship lead. And we're not even at the halfway mark of the final race here from Teretonga. Jason Barguana, elbows up against young William Bamber. And Willie really shining in this wet race. A little bit of a guard rub there, I think, for the LG Ford. And they haven't let Boothie get away. 7th, 8th,
Johnny
9th, McIntyre's off. You can hear the gravel.
Certainly can now. Is he out of the gravel? No, that's turn 7. No, I have no idea where that is.
I think that's down.
I'm going to guess.
I think that's down through the sweeper, mate.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, he's gone right off. He's just bringing that thing back in, so that's going to drop him right back.
3rd in the championship, John McIntyre. Well, what has happened here? Here's the Peak Antifreeze replay. Oh, he's got a shot there with Simon Richards.
Mate, he was just on the outside minding his own business, and Simon Richards is, what's happened here, gone in a bit hot.
Oh, there's the contact.
That's a big shot for John
McIntyre.
Moved a long way to the right into Johnny.
That was a weird one.
Yeah, but look, you're carrying a lot of speed there. As we know, there's a bit of surface water there, so maybe he pinched a brake and it just moved the car into him. I wouldn't say there was anything intentional.
Well, it's a fairly big hit. Hasn't done any damage to the front end of Johnny Mac's car. He went through the gravel track, got out the other side. Fog leads from Knight. Baird now up into 3rd. Bell 4th. Penny in 5th. Booth now up into the 6th position ahead of David Hopper. Here's Bargwanna and Willie Bamber in behind Hopper. So, well, for the championship, that is important. Mark John McIntyre has still not crossed the line. He's just crossing the line now. In fact, he's dropped right back to the tail of the field. McIntyre in 18th.
He's got a bit of work to do. Now, we just heard that Simon Richards actually got a drive-through for that indiscretion here with Johnny McIntyre. So, the boys in the traditional truck deciding that it was actually his fault.
Well, it's been pretty clean up until this point. Well, that's really going to hurt John McIntyre in the points. This is a big points loss, but he's still got over half the race left to go to try and make up some positions, but he's over 30 seconds out of the race lead held by Angus Fogg. He's got a 3.9 second advantage over Andy Knight and Craig Baird in 3rd, on board with Kane Scott. He's currently scored in the 10th position. David Hopper running wide. Scott's going to pick up another spot there. Craig Baird, he's now up into the 3rd spot. That's a 15-point swing to Foggy. And Baird would be back in the lead now by 3 points on lap 10 of 22 for the 3rd and final race here from Teretonga for the BNT V8s. Nail-biting stuff. So Craig Baird now right in behind Andy Knight, looking to extend further if he can get by Knight. Has he got enough pace in him to chase down Angus Fogg? Looking at the last laps, Fogg at a 10.8, Knight 10.7, Baird 10.6.
I've just been watching the timing monitors the last few laps, and it looked like Angus was to the point where he was just controlling the race, but he probably had a word to him saying, look, Craig is closing on Andy Knight, there is a chance he may get through. So I dare say Angus probably wants to get as much gap as he can, but the big thing about here is that a safety car can be deployed any time, because these conditions are so treacherous. These guys are going hammer and tongue, and only going to take one guy to go off at this part of the track, which is turn 7, where Boothie's just done a sterling job on John Penny. If the car gets beached, safety car's out, and all that hard work is for nothing.
Up into 5th goes Andy Booth. John Penny trying to come back at him, and look who's behind them, Bargwanna.
He's just going to take advantage of this, isn't he?
Now, I think he's had about 300 pages of advice from Inky Tulloch, who's done a fair few laps around this place, the former mayor of Mataura. Makes the 2-car team, driven by Jason Bargwanna and Eddie
Booth's
Bell.
gone wide.
Booth runs wide. Bargwanna's going to slip up the inside in the juiced-up Rock Ford. So Bargwanna up to the 5th position. Certainly the best weekend the Aussies had in 3 rounds. Lost all of his points from Ruapuna. Boothie's going to come back at him though. This could be fun.
There's the door very, very wide, and they're just going to tussle with each other.
There's contact through the S as it continues off the exit.
Look, he's in the background, Kane Scott. He's going to take advantage of this because these guys are just slowing each other up.
Well, Angus Fogg has just lost a full second on the last lap, and the gap is 2.8 seconds back to Andy Knight, with Craig Baird within a second of the 2nd place car. Oh, brake lock up there for Bargwanna. He's got it wrong.
Nah, now that there is V8 supercar experience. 99% of the people just gone straight off into the kiddie litter. He hauled the thing up. You see the wheels. Oh, Kane Scott onto the grass on the inside.
Yeah, try to get a run up the inside of Bargwanna, who's going to come back to the outside of John Penny.
So let's work through this. Bargwanna went through, just about stopped the car, and is now battling for the same position he just lost. Incredible.
So the gap, Angus Fogg, 2.6 seconds. Baird a further half second back. And Baird the fastest lap on that last lap at a 10 flat. The track's getting faster, Mark, so it is starting to not dry out so much, but there's definitely a better racing line.
Yeah, the guys have got a lot of confidence as well. So they've done 12 laps of this now, and these cars, they just pump the circuit dry. Big, huge racing tyres, exactly the same compound and design as they use in the supercars, so that'll work in a couple of the favour.
Of course, the Dunlop tyres for the BNT V8 Championship. On board with Kane Scott, who is in the 8th position. John Penny just up ahead. And here the wheel spin. Timmy Edgell's off in the Chester's Ford. He was scored in the 11th position. So 5th in the points going into the final race here this weekend. The Teretonga. Oh, it's building. It's building. This is not over yet. Back on board with Kane Scott. Fogg leads from Knight, Baird, Bell, Booth, Barguana, Penny and Scott. Scott in the 8th position.
Got Andy Knight, Craig Baird just took 1.5 seconds out of Angus Fogg to be 1.1 seconds behind. So whatever's happening, maybe Angus set his car up for very wet conditions. It's dried up a lot more. Maybe these guys in the pitch now have gone for a compromised setup. Yeah, you'll see Angus, the back of the car, moving around. These other two guys, kind of stable platform. So maybe, just maybe, it's working against Angus.
So 21 points, the difference between 3rd and 8th for the round win. Kane Scott wouldn't be enough. I think Craig Baird may be looking pretty good, possibly for the round win here.
So he's got a bit of work, because Kane Scott's currently 8th, Craig in 3rd. So it might work against him. Now, there is one car slowing. Andrew Anderson
in the ITM Holden. He's going to try and limp into pit lane. Maybe a flat right front or some damage to the right front corner of that car. It just didn't look to be sitting flat on the track.
Yeah, keep in mind, he did go off in the very first part of the race. So maybe there's a bit of dirt and debris went in there and perhaps started to overheat.
Lap 14 of 22. Angus Fogg leads from Andy Knight and Craig Baird. Don't go away. We'll be back with more from the BNT V8s after this. So here's Angus Fogg, the race leader, just taking a ride there with Kane Scott in 6th. Angus Fogg, he's got a 2.6 advantage over Craig Baird. And the difference, 10 points. Baird leading now in the championship with 3 laps left to go. Fogg, Baird, Knight, Bell, Booth and Scott, your top 6. John McIntyre has made another position up into 15th. So, Mark, just looking at the lines Craig Baird's taking, I don't know that it's drying out that much, but are some of these guys maybe now just starting to look for a little bit of extra moisture at different parts of the racetrack to keep the tyres cool?
Hit the nail on the head, Jamie. They'll be looking for every bit of moisture they can find to help cool off those tyres, because at this stage they're going to be hot, they're going to be overheating. It's not a criticism of the tyre, it's just the fact of driving in these conditions with a wet tyre on a drying track.
We just got the call from Race Radio. Tim Edgell has been assessed with a drive-through penalty for contact with David Hopper at turn 7 a few laps ago. So another one of the championship contenders in the wars here, John McIntyre. He's had an off involved with Simon Richards.
There's a bit of a tussle going on here. That's Nick Ross and William Bamber. Now, those two guys were in close quarters a couple of laps before. Nick Ross was all over the back of William Bamber. Actually, he was tapping him going around the sweeper, so that battle's continued into turn 7.
Yeah, Ross definitely gained out of it. He's now 9th, Bamber 10th, McLaughlin up to 11th. So here's the peak replay. Ross down the inside of Bamber at 7. And contact off the exit. Scott McLaughlin on board with him now here to take avoiding action to avoid those two getting together. Went to the outside, had to switch back to the inside with Bamber just about stopping in front of him right off the racetrack. So just a couple to go. Angus Fogg, he's done a masterful job in this. He's just set the fastest lap of the race, Mark, out in front. Craig Baird 2.2 seconds back. That gap might be a little bit narrower this time. Let's see how the lap times translate at the start-finish line. Fogg hitting the stripe now at a 10.2, Baird at 9.3, a second quicker.
Yeah, that's right, a whole second out. 2 laps to go. Now we're going to see the true Angus Fogg. We're going to see how he's respond, because the guys on the radio are saying, Angus, you've got 2 laps to go. Craig's a second quicker a lap. Mathematically, they'll be behind each other coming along the start-finish line.
So Craig Baird looking good for the round honours and will lead the championship heading to Timaru. Inside the last couple of laps. Championship's tight, just 10 points. John McIntyre, unfortunately, for the Tellys Ford driver, is going to be the big loser out of this final race. Contact with Simon Richards sees McIntyre all the way back in the 14th position. He's going to lose a whole heap of points in that battle between himself, Fogg and Craig Baird. So Kane Scott more than likely will move into 3rd overall, certainly. So just 16 points. Picked up McIntyre up to 14th, so that would give him 24 points. But even so, he's going to lose the better part of at least 40 to 50 points out of that championship chase. Just doesn't get any better.
No, it doesn't. And Angus Fogg has responded to the challenge again. Has gone 1/10 of a second quicker than Craig Baird. 1 lap to go. So here we go. Johnny McIntyre, he is trying to push the issue of Paul Manuel.
He's trying to get by the last lap. Borders out for Angus Fogg. That gap is just 1.5 seconds. Manuel runs wide, and McIntyre's going to pick up the inside run in another position. That's important, but it's still going to be a big loss for McIntyre. Fogg leads Baird, Knight, Bell, Booth, and Scott. Baird for the round win and the championship lead overall, heading to Timaru. McIntyre's moved up to 13th now. So 26 points, gains another 2 points. He's going to lose the better part of 40. Plus to Angus Fogg and Craig Baird. But it's Angus Fogg taking out the final race honours. Craig Baird closing up in the last couple of laps. A masterful drive from Baird. Equally masterful from Angus Fogg from 14. The LG Motorsports team is celebrating. Foggy takes the final race victory at Teretonga from Craig Baird. Just 10 points the difference in the championship. Angus Fogg taking out the final race honours from new championship leader Craig Baird. There's just 10 points between Baird and Fogg heading to Timaru. Andy Knight 3rd, Eddie Bell in 4th, ahead of Andy Booth, Kane Scott, Jason Bargwana, John Penny, Nick Ross and Scott McLaughlin.